In this episode, I'm going to talk about my two small Belgae units and how I would use them in a game of Hail Caesar. Stick around if you're a Celtic player. Before I start my review, let me just make a quick statement. There are no bad units in a game of Hail Caesar. Every unit in every army plays some kind of role. The type of units you choose in your army determines how your army will play. There's no meta chasing in Hail Caesar. Hail Caesar is a toolkit game. Now that I made that statement, let me get into my review right proper. So let's start off things from the very top. Stats. Let's talk about this unit stats. Now, I want you guys to keep in mind that these are two small units, so they're not going to have the same stats as a standard unit. A standard unit, you're going to have more dice roll than a small unit. So keep that in mind, okay? For those who know Hail Caesar, you understand. If you had never played Hail Caesar, I would suggest you dip your toes into Hail Caesar. I don't think you would be disappointed, but that's just my opinion. So let's get with the stats. So they have a clash of 7. For those who never played Hail Caesar or don't understand the Hail Caesar rules, the clash value is the number of dice you're going to be rolling when you get into contact with a new enemy for the very first time. You're going to roll 7 dice for hand-to-hand combat. Okay? Then there's sustain of 4. So if you're stuck in combat with that enemy or the same enemy, you're no longer going to roll your clash value. You're going to roll your sustain value of 4. So that's 4 from them, 4 from them. Clash value, 7 from them, 7 from them. Now you do have range attacks. They do carry javelins, but it's short range, and javelins are 6 inches. But the problem is, you're only going to get 1 dice to shoot. 1 dice from them, 1 dice from them. Okay. They don't have any long range. So the problem with that is that you won't be able to do traversing shots. You're not going to be able to do any closing ranks. Somebody's going to come charging. Your reaction is you're just going to have to accept it. So then they have a morale save of 5+, which is standard throughout a Gaul or Celtic army. Your morale save is, for those who never played Hail Caesar, let me explain it. Your morale save is, like, for example, you have Space Marine in 40K. And let's say your Space Marine has to make 2 armor save rolls. And if he fails the 2 armor save rolls, well, bad things happen to the Space Marine. He gets taken off the table. In this case, if they fail, they 5-up morale save. They take a point of stamina. And speaking of stamina, they have 4 here and 4 there. 4 points of stamina. Once you reach your stamina threshold, or your maximum stamina, bad things can start happening to your unit. Now, they do have Wild Fighter for a special rule and Eager, which I will get into later in the video. But they're also 24 points per unit. So not bad, not good. I think that's okay. I can't say it's standard because your standard unit is back here. They do, when I do a unit review on them, you'll understand. But nevertheless, I don't think their stats are too bad. If they support let's say if they had to support this unit here, and they had to contribute any dice to them, because if they short range of 1, you're only going to contribute 1 dice to whoever they support. So, because you use your short range for supporting units as well in Hail Season. Now, let's talk about the pros. Well, the pros of these units are their special rules. The Wildfighter, the Eager, those are the things that makes these 2 units shine. Let's talk about Wildfighter first. Now, Wildfighter allows you, when you get into the first initial contact with an enemy, when you engage in an enemy in hand-to-hand combat, okay, your Wildfighter kicks in. Even if they charge you, your Wildfighter is still going to kick in. What Wildfighter allows you to do, it allows you to re-roll any miss hits. Everything. Now, imagine you have 7 dice from this unit, because that's when you're going to be using it. Pretty much when you get your clash, because you got to use the first time they attack clash. You will be re-rolling any miss hits. Keep Wildfighters in mind, because it plays a part on how I would use these 2 units. Then there's Eager. Now, I have to explain Eager this way. Now, for all those who don't know Hail Caesar, when your commander gives an order to a unit, he rolls 2 dice, and he has to stay below or at his command rating. Most commanders have a command rating of 8. So if he wanted these 2 units to charge, if he rolls an 8 or less, if they're in range, they can charge. Okay? Now, in Hail Caesar, we have something called a blunder. If he rolls double 6s, usually that means they have to roll on the blunder table, and rolling on the blunder table could cause a lot of bad things to happen to a unit. But fear not, they have Eager. Eager allows them to ignore this, and because they have Eager, the rules say that they don't have to roll on the blunder table. They automatically get a 6 on the blunder table, and that means charge. Okay, that's very handy. Very handy indeed. Now, if he just rolls, say, an 11 and he just fails, he doesn't blunder, they still can make 1 free move towards the enemy, which I think is still good. That's not bad. You're still gaining on the enemy. Still pretty much moving towards him. Every inch counts in Hail Caesar. Movement wins games in Hail Caesar, just like it does in 40K, Age of Sigmar, and any other game. Okay, let's talk about the cons for a minute. So the cons of this unit is they have a 5+ save. And it's pretty much throughout the Celtics and Gaul army. So it is a weakness, because if you come across armies that could affect your morale save, like, for example, if they charge into a Roman Legionary unit, or if a Roman Legionary unit charge into them, then the Pelham rule will come into effect. And instead of a 5+, you'd be saving on 6+, which you can't go no higher than a 6, so it's just going to be 6. Because the Roman Pila makes your morale save a -1. So you need 6s to get to that 5. So that's a weakness. That's a weakness. Other armies have a 4+ save for the most part, stuff like that. So, but that's neither here or there. They also only have a short range. They only, they got a short range of 1. It's not great, but they're not here for shooting. They're here for fighting. That's what you want them for, fighting. Pretty much that's all they nope, they don't have. I already said they don't have no long range. So pretty much that's all they have on the pros and cons on this unit. Now, how would I use them in game? Let me move the commander out of the way. I would put these 2 units. I gotta get that wrong. Yeah, there we go. Commander always got to be in the middle. So I would put these 2 units like this on a flank. I don't know if you can see, but let me come over this way. So I will put these 2 units on the flank, on this unit's flank. Okay, and I will probably have my cavalry unit or cavalry unit on this side of their flank to protect that side of the flank. Now, the goal is for me to get these 2 units to get into close combat with an enemy as soon as possible. They have eager, so I don't have to worry too much about them failing to get into a charge. They have wild fighters, so once they get into contact with an enemy, they're going to do a lot of damage. Now here's why I say they get hit a little bit more harder than them. When they get into contact, when they move into an enemy, because you're going to have them charge in together, make sure when you have them charge in, you leave room for the next unit to charge in. That way, they're not supporting. You don't really want them to support because they're only going to contribute 1 dice anyway. So you want them to have enough room for them to charge in. And I think they will have enough room, say, against a Roman army. Let me move them over here so everybody's in frame. So that way, you would more than likely have enough room because the Roman army is the same length as these dudes, and this is pretty much the same length as a Roman legionnaire army. So you want both of these units to charge in because you're looking for a 2-on-1 situation. 2 units on 1 enemy unit. That's what you want with this. They're rolling 7 dice. They're going to be rolling 7 dice on the clash. That's 14 dice. Wildfighter allows them to re-roll any miss hits. That's powerful. Man, that's a good deal. I'm sorry. I'll take that deal any day. Any day of the week. They're not rolling 14 dice when they charge in. They're going to be rolling less than 14 dice. I'm not going to talk about how many dice they roll, right? They would be rolling because I'm going to do a unit review on them and how you use them in another video. But they're going to be rolling 14 dice. That's much more than what they're going to be rolling as a standard infantry, as a standard warband. And everybody says this is the optimal way to take them. Maybe. I think the jury for me is still out on that one. So these 2 units is going to be rolling 14 dice, 7 from them, 7 from them. That's not bad. Plus you got Wildfighter, re-rolling it. But once you're done with your Wildfighter, you can't use it. You can only use it once per game after that. Then if they still stuck in combat with this Roman legionary unit, they're rolling 4 dice from them, 4 dice from them from the sustain. That's 8 dice. Still more dice than what they're going to be rolling in their sustain. Okay? That's not bad. 8 dice. You're not going to be re-rolling because your Wildfighter's gone, but I would rather roll 8 dice than the number of dice that they're going to be rolling. Because 8 dice between the 2 of them is a lot more than what they're going to be rolling. If the enemy unit is still there, okay, and you're still fighting them, you need some kind of maybe defense. So here's where the defense parts comes in. You don't have to do anything like close ranks or anything like that. The enemy has to split his dice roll between the 2 of them. A legionnaire unit has a clash of 7 and a sustain of 7. That means he has to put 3 dice here, 4 dice here. Even if he get every hit here with the 3 dice, they're still not shaken. The only unit you would have to worry about is here, getting hit with 4 dice. And it's going to be very rare that they're going to take 4 stamina points in that engagement. Very rare. It can happen. It can happen. Don't get it wrong. You could get 4 stamina hits and become shaken just like that. But the likelihood of it is slim to none. So I would take those chances, take the odds on putting 2 Belgae units on 1 enemy unit. Because I think this will come out on top most of the time. Now, that's not a guarantee, because something can go wrong, right? They could charge in and nobody else charge in, and you could have a whole division back here just hanging out looking at them fight. It's a possibility. Now, let's say you only have 1 Belgae unit. I don't have my skirmishers out here, but I can explain it to you still. So we know that they have 7 attacks. Skirmishers, whenever they support any unit, most of the time they're going to contribute 2 dice. And you have your skirmishers support your 1 Belgae unit. They're going to be rolling 9 dice and 6 dice on a sustain. That equals what they pretty much can do. But like I said, I'm going to do a video on them later. Now, let's talk about how they was used in real world, in the ancient world. Well, your warband is your main battle force. They're the ones that's going to do most of the heavy lifting in your list. And even in the ancient world, the warband was used to do all the heavy lifting. It was their job to rush in and hit that enemy as hard as they can to try to break them. In fact, most historians say that they tried their best to scare off their enemy before they even charged them, before they even did the Gallic charge, beating their shields, foaming at the mouth, all that kind of stuff to get into the enemy head mentally. But in Hail Caesar, you're not going to be able to do all that unless you talk to your enemy, try to scare them that way, but your opponent that way. But for the most part, what the real Gauls would do is they would come into post. They would hit an enemy and then back off, hit an enemy and then back off, kind of like hammering a nail into a piece of wood. And in some cases, historians said they came in waves. You could probably do that in the game of Hail Caesar. The coming in and hitting, coming out and coming in, you can't do that in Hail Caesar. So in real world and game wise, these guys are going to do all your heavy lifting. You want them to get in as quick as possible, pop that wildfighter, try to break that enemy in the first turn. That's their goal. That was their goal in history, and that's their goal in game. Well, let me ask you a question. Would you, who out there who play Hail Caesar or have a Gaul army, would you try this? Would you try splitting up, would you try making 2 small Belgae units and having them do a 201 enemy attack? Leave a comment if you think this is a great tactic, or you have another tactic. Anyway, that's all I got on this one. I'll see you guys on the next video, and take care. Have fun. Keep rolling your dices.